I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. What's up, world? Welcome to another edition of I Mix What I Like right here at Black Power Media. I'm Jared Ball, very happy to be your host, even if I am still confused how to operate my own platform. Anyway, got about a little over an hour, so we can work through the last parts, what I believe are the concluding parts of the Hulu series on the 1619 Project. And then if anybody is around and wants to jump in and raise comments, questions, or even jump on the platform, I'm happy to do that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and wrap up this discussion. Oh man. Okay, let me make sure. Okay, let me get the audio straight. You know what? Let's do this. Let me get the audio straight. It changed on me again. Let's do this. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. There we go. And it's like it never happened. Welcome back to I Mix What I Like here at Black Power Media. I am Jared Ball, your host. Very happy to be here on this quick restart to talk about the last episodes, the concluding chapters of the Hulu series on the 1619 Project. And what a fascinating conclusion. To those who are here now live, welcome. Greetings to you. And to those who will see and hear this later, greetings to you as well. And just for the sake of focus, I'm going to resist my interest and desire to jump in the chat until I get through a couple things. And then if folks are still around, I'm happy to extend the conversation. We can get into a number of different things, whatever's on your mind, comments, questions, critiques, queries, conundrums, catechisms, cacophony, calumny. We can also do some Q&A, and folks can even jump in up on the platform if they like. Got a little bit over an hour with you all this morning as I sort of set the stage, and happily so, for Warrior Class. All right, so first of all, let's start with the headline. I was right, and that's, of course, the most important thing. I was right that ultimately the goal of this series is to create an argument for reparations and mainstream electoral politics. So they made that pretty clear at the beginning. As I said, the reverse soda analysis, Gerald Horne does not appear. And I think, again, that's because even as Nicole Hannah-Jones has said and referenced his work, the 1776 Counter-Revolution book, his analysis is too international. It's too Pan-African, and ultimately, I think, just too far left for direct involvement in such a mainstream Hulu piece. And again, this is Hulu presented by Lionsgate, who infamously gave us a bulk of Tyler Perry's films. And as we did in my own co-authored book chapter on the subject, we highlighted the fact that Lionsgate said specifically that they were delivering us Tyler Perry films so that because those films fed a niche, the niche audience, the niche need of Black content for white audiences. So here we are again, and this is ultimately what this is. It's not really a film for, the series is not for Black audiences. If at all, it's tangentially for Black audiences to just support broadly a reparations call. But ultimately, it's meant to sway public opinion. By that, I mean white mainstream opinion, and to be in support of some reparations bills. Now, ultimately, and we can come back to this, I don't think reparations, not that it's not deserved or owed, it's that I just don't think it's a strategy or a tactic or an approach that's going to be fruitful. And I think it's ultimately something that the mainstream will welcome because they know it's not going to go anywhere. And they know ultimately it's not a threatening call to arms, so to speak. So it's very safe for a Hulu presentation, and it's very safe for people who want to seem as if they're advocating something radical or progressive, but really, I don't think that they are. But again, we can come back to that. Again, Harpo Productions, Oprah's production company, and the New York Times are the three. So Lionsgate, Oprah, and New York Times provide us with this. So it ultimately doesn't matter how good the people are who are interviewed, how good the analysis may be in some moments, or how good the video production is. And as I've said before, it gets pretty challenging in previous episodes. These last two were not very challenging at all. I think they hit the high point in episodes 3 and 4 in terms of challenging my Vernon philosophy of Black media avoidance and making product that is harder for us to be critical of. Anyway, episode 5 is titled Fear, and it's both basically about white fear. All respect to Roland Martin, he didn't make the cut either. So, his book on white fear, which basically makes the same sort of argument, absent some of the radical histories that even the Hulu series addresses, is basically making the point that so much of what was going on wrong in the world is a result of white fear. Fear of Black people, fear of Black liberation, fear of just a fear of Blackness, a fear of the world that their oppression creates, and so on and so forth. They talk about the history of slave patrols and systems of control. They talk about the fear inspired by the Haitian Revolution, where again, I thought that they might end up being forced to challenge their overall goal, I think, of keeping everything within the national borders of the United States. So I was a little bit shocked that they made any reference at all to the Haitian Revolution, although they don't really play up the fact that it was such an inspiring event that inspired rebellion among Africans here in the United States and elsewhere, and so on and so forth. They just sort of, it's a bit of history that I think they even can't ignore. So they present it in a way that doesn't allow them to expand on it for the analysis of the show. The other point, I don't know, to be honest, I don't know to what extent that they intended this, but another point that they make in terms of the slave patrols, and I don't know that they do enough to connect that to the origins of the police per se. Maybe I might be being unfair to that, but I don't recall them making too much of an effort to draw those together. But one point that they make, and I'm not sure if it was intentional, but they make the point that poor whites were actually forced into patrolling the enslaved. And I don't know if they were trying to make a class point, or if they were just making a reference to history, or they were leaving it for us to figure out, or if it was just an accident. I think more could have been done with that. I think it would have been very interesting had they followed up on that point. In other words, what does it mean when, in other words, I think they could have made a very interesting class argument if they had wanted to, by saying, by pointing out the fact that rich whites not only forced poor whites to participate, but on punishment of you either had to participate or you were punished. So if in other words, it's not to let poor whites off the hook or to justify their behavior, but it is to make the point, if we're trying to perform an analysis, that there is manipulation happening here, and that even poor whites had to be forced into patrolling enslaved Africans because, of course, immediately their class interests wouldn't have been served by protecting slavery. But I just thought that was interesting. I just thought that was interesting. I wrote here, episode just like the book chapter, Fear ignores. Okay, so the episode Fear dovetails with the chapter from the book 1619 Project, titled with the same title, co-authored by Leslie Alexander, my Africana comrade, and her sister Michelle Alexander. They co-authored the chapter on fear, and you know, as it caused, back in 2012, we had our little radio incident where I sort of, again, I can't, it's just such a fascinating memory for me. I got caught in the middle of friendship, of politics, of duty to radio, and um uh so, and Greg Thomas, and I put the link in the show description again, when he wrote his critique of the new Jim Crow, why some like it so much, and gave it to me to post on imixwhatilike.org. And I still I went back and was even rereading it again this morning. I mean, I think it's a brilliant critique. If at minimum it deserves to be involved in the arguments. And we go on radio, and Dominique Stevenson is there, the partner to Marshall Eddie Conway. Power to him and his family. And we go in, and we're going to do this interview at WPFW, but they're having a fundraiser where they're using Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow as a major gift to raise funds for the station. So we have this off-air, before the show, back and forth to make sure everybody's clear. We're going to be critical of a book that's going to be used to fundraise. And if everybody's cool, everybody signed off on, everybody involved was cool with it, at least going in. If they weren't cool with it, but willing to go through with it. And I had this uncomfortable thing, like, we're critical of this book, but you should, listening to the radio station, you should get a copy of it so you can see for yourself and raise money for the station. And then afterwards, Thomas was pissed. Like, he was more upset with me, and he felt that among other things that I'll never understand, he felt a kind of way. So Leslie got mad at me for publicizing a critique of her sister. Greg got mad at me for promoting the book he was critical of. And just as they always say, when you sit on a fence, you get it on all sides. I know none of them really mess with me anymore, so it is what it is. But I stand on what I stand on. It was right to be critical of the book. It was right in the service of that radio station to promote the book, to fundraise for the station. It was, I felt, and maybe everybody's right for being upset with me. I don't know. But I say all that to say that the exact same thing that I think Thomas is critical of in terms of Michelle Alexander's book happens again in the chapter they co-write, as I went back and read that this morning as well, and in the series, which is based on that chapter. And all of that to say is that it ignores, just like I wrote here in my note, just like the book chapter Fear ignores organized radical responses and their histories post-enslavement, it happens here again. Like, there's, they give this history of enslavement, of slave patrols, of later on, as we'll come back to, the theft of land. They go through all of the abuses. But just like in the new Jim Crow, they skip over or make, at best, passing reference to all of the histories of radical responses. So yes, they may mention the rebellions of the enslaved back in the day, but none of that is brought into the 21st century and included in the 21st century. So, as I also made a note here, they do the same thing. When John Henrik Clarke put together that book of the 10 writers respond to William Styron's Nat Turner, John Oliver Killens, in his essay in that book, makes the point saying that William Styron said, hey, it's cool to write about Nat Turner and slave rebellions 150 years ago, but that's not to be taken into account, or the parallel is not to be made in terms of an analysis and a focus, and it's not to say that an appreciation for Nat Turner means those arguing and making the same form of responses in the 21st century is to also be supported. So Nat Turner is cool. Gabriel Prosser is cool because they were just rebelling violently against enslavement. But anybody who would do that in the 21st or the 20th century, no. You all just make by the end of the sixth episode, you all just make an appeal for reparations. Because Nat Turner and them, they fought the real fight. They had to do the real thing. You don't have to do that. We don't want you to do that. We don't want anything like that. So there's no, so even again, there's no discussion of George Jackson. There's no discussion of political prisoners. No, there's no discussion again, other than a passing reference in the book chapter that is to the Black Panther Party. There's no sustained analysis of the impact to this day as we see unfolding before us of the counterintelligence program. None of that is involved because again, the series has to make it seem as though we're on this progressive push forward. And if you acknowledge political prisoners, if you acknowledge those struggles and suggest that they were legitimate, I think then the series and the effort loses its value to those who would offer it to us. Lionsgate, Oprah, New York Times, and their allies. So it's yeah. They do make reference to the studies that have come out recently about white nationalism in law enforcement. They talk about Black people being seen as an internal enemy, but I made the note that you can't call that a colony because then that automatically starts putting you on that other path of analysis. Black people being a forever internal enemy, that's cool because that just limits it to Black people here in the United States in a sort of basic unexplored anti-Blackness that isn't in unreal or in without impact. But if you say that the internal enemy is an internal colony, then you have to start to ask, well, what does that mean? Then you start by picking up internal colonialism as an analysis, and then you start moving into dangerous areas of internationalism, Pan-Africanism, socialism, and all the isms that can't be included in a series like this. So yeah, so sort of to the point I was just making, the Black militancy that is reflected at all is reduced to symbolic clips of Eldridge Cleaver and like making, you know, a quick statement here or there. No analysis, no focus. We hear nothing or little from their perspectives. I think I did put it already in the show description, and I'm going to double check that because they do talk a little bit about the Kerner Commission. And I have to, again, I'm very select with yeah, I did put it in the show description. There's very few things that I've written that I think are I think they're all correct analytically, but there's very few things that I think are worthy of repeat sharing. And one of them is what I did in 2018 around the Kerner Commission, which I think would have been helpful to the discussion in this series of the Kerner Commission when it's brought up. That is the I keep forgetting the full title of that, the original full title of that Kerner Commission report. But it was the report that came out in 1968, and it was titled "The Report of the National Advisory Commission on Civil Disorders," led by Otto Kerner, otherwise known as the Kerner Commission. And there were a couple of things that I think would have been so, for instance, when you go back, as I did this morning, and read Leslie Alexander, the Alexander sisters chapter on fear, when they talk about the Kerner Commission, there is, well, let me even just quickly pull this up here. Because, yeah, let's see. President Johnson was not among those who denied that legitimate reasons existed for the rebellions. Like many liberals, in other words, Lyndon Johnson called for the report to be commissioned. He wanted it to be commissioned. What I don't think is made clear enough in this chapter is that he didn't like the final report because the final report disagreed with everything that he was encouraging be done in terms of liberal reform. Anyway, like many liberals, Johnson's rhetoric indicated that he favored social programs to address root causes of Black despair, but in practice, he, as well as both political parties, increasingly looked to law enforcement as the best strategy to achieve and maintain law and order. The Kerner Commission, in its final report, which became a best-selling book in 1968, warned against this lopsided approach, saying that absent Massive investment in poor communities, rebellion, and white retaliation would render racial inequality a permanent feature of American life. Now, long story short, I think the Alexanders, we agree, and they make this point. They're correct. I agree with their point but I think maybe not them, but I think the overall project is only bringing up that point so that they can lay the groundwork again for the conclusion that reparations are what is necessary. And that's the federal involvement. That's the massive federal involvement. Um, uh, Warned against the lopsided, saying that absent mass, that the report was that the Alexanders, including in the reference to the report and its statement, that there needed to be massive investment in poor Black communities if you wanted to prevent further rebellion. I think they're bringing it up to make the point that we need reparations. I would have been bringing it up to make the point that we need, if not an entirely new world, we need something so much more than what would be called for in reparations, and something that would be more tactically likely to occur. Again, I'm happy to come back to that point. So again, and in the differences in our approach to Kerner is that I do make reference, for instance, to what George Jackson said about the Kerner report, and anyway, so I'm trying to make I'm trying to bring in those missing pages of the radical rebelliousness and militancy that is erased in these 1619 styled new Jim Crow styled approaches, where it's not that they're wrong, it's not that they're bad, it's not that it's just that they leave out these key components that I think are necessary if we're going to stay within the United States and then stay within mainstream politics, with the most radical call being reparations, which again, I don't see it anyway, but we'll come back to it. Ferguson, the response to the killing of Michael Brown gets a lot of attention with one or another activist getting some good attention there. And then did I write this, or did they make the point at the end of episode 5 that COINTELPRO never ended? They may have made that point. They may have made a reference to that. But it would have been just a passing reference, if at all. And it wasn't, yeah. Did I write that? Maybe I'm not sure. No, I messed up. Anyway, episode 6 is called Equality, and they immediately get to, as they ended in episode 5, with What Is Owed. And this is where you hear Gail Scott's Reparations on My Soul, which I thought was an interesting choice because they're wanting material reparations, and the song is about who's going to repair my soul. So maybe I'm misinterpreting Gil Scott here, but I've always heard that song and thought of, this is not a song about getting a check. This is almost a song about you can't repair the situation and you should be punished endlessly for this. But maybe they're also saying that that the material reparations that the series is going to advocate is also not enough because the soul is not complete, and I don't know. They get into a lot of important stuff about land theft and the histories of Black land theft. They, of course, throw in the histories of people's families finding humanity and fighting for the Union Army, which some of us might have a little bit of a struggle with. I certainly felt my service in this country's military was destroying my humanity. But okay. Clearly it was absolutely ruining my humanity. So but okay. Finding humanity in military service, just like as I made a note at the end of Nate Parker's film. So it's like that same thing. We're going to mention some slave rebellions. We're going to mention some bad histories here, but at the end of the movie, when you see that little boy that snitched on that Turner carrying the American flag into battle against the Confederacy to redeem himself, I struggle with that approach. Um, I did make a note when they were talking to one of the sisters about looking up some of her own history and about people resisting being sold back into slavery and having their land taken by vigilante whites. Um, I had a little moment because she said she had in her mind created an image of this dark-skinned, chocolate, strong, superhero brother, and then when she looked up the records, she was disappointed to find out that he was lighter skinned. And I was like, sometimes melanin isn't a measurement of commitment. It's not always a measurement. And if you go back and read those Herbert Aptheker joints reports, those early newspaper reports were saying had to specify that they were not looking for Nat Turner, the mulatto. In other words, maybe he was a little lighter than, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, just a little petty moment for me. And then they come in, and then it's just very clear they bring in Sandy Darity. And then it's like, boom. And it was like, oh, if I was at all confused about where they're going, here it is, Mr. Reparations man. And what is the law? I got to look up the law about sharing emails. I would love to have a discussion, maybe for like members or Patreon, that email exchange that he and I had a couple years ago that Ray Winbush got in a little bit. I would love to do that. I would love to do that. But of course, Darity's, big. He goes into the issue of wealth redistribution and the absence of wealth. You get a clip. They got a clip at a reparations rally of my main man Baba Oduno, who you saw in a recent video of ours covering one of the more recent Black Alliance for Peace rallies in D.C. Baba Oduno. There is no culture without agriculture. Shout out to him. It was nice to see him in the background there. And then another petty moment is when Nicole Hannah-Jones asks Sandy Darity, so let me just ask you a couple of things, myths that you can get rid of real quick. And one of them is, so you're saying if we just, if we're not poor just because we're out here, blinging and spending our money, and we're not spending our way into power, something like that. And then she's like, what evidence is there for, what is it? And then he says, in response to that, he says, well, the evidence is clear that this has nothing to do with it. And I wrote in caps, what evidence? Say my name, fools. Anyway, nah, it's all good. Then they talk about it in Cobra. So they talk about reparations, and thankfully they don't bring in the reverse hashtaggers. They at least don't do that. And I know that Darity fell out with them, so maybe that's part of it too. But we stayed with the Darity and Cobra reparations, in reference to the more recent testimonies of the survivors from I think just one survivor from Tulsa, and this whole, again, reviving the mythology of Black Wall Street and vigilante violence took away our wealth, and that's why the country has to give it back. And Darity does make the point, I think, and this is where we would get to the tactical question that if you're trying to, because again, and this is what again reveals the overall point of the series and to whom they are actually talking, because the question was something Nicole ends up asking him something about, well, won't taxes have to be used if we're to get our reparations? Because Darity says that each of us should get $350,000 or about 14 trillion overall dollars to go to the Black Americans deserving of all of this. And I don't know how they, and in his book, I fully qualify because I think you only needed like one Black grandparent. I think that's how they did it. I got to go back and look at it. Somebody will correct me. So I'm good. I get my check, which is ultimately, again, all that I'm worried about. Do I get a check? And but this is where they kind of again have to reveal the overall mission here, and to whom again that they're speaking, because she says, well, won't we have to use a whole bunch of taxes? And nobody wants to, she plays clips of white Republicans saying, oh, it's old, it happened a long time ago, and we need taxes. And Darity makes a point. No, the federal government would have to cover it. It's not taxes. We're not going to have to increase people's taxes. We're not going to. The federal government caused the problem. They're going to have to cover the cost of this, and it's not going to be through taxes. So again, it's the tactic and the necessary one of saying, hey, white folks, it's not going to dip into your pockets for you to give us. Again, tactically, I'm saying, you're still going to need 2/3 of the country and a whole rack of white folks to support this stuff, and then you have to get the Senate to sign off on it. So even if 2/3 of the population agrees with this, we've already seen, including with that 2014 Princeton study, that the elites in Congress and the Senate in particular just won't fund it, and then it dies. The whole House, everybody in the House could vote for it. You just need half the Senate to say no, and then it stops. That's it. It's a wrap. Go back. Everybody go home. So, and again, I just don't see where we're moving in the society to convincing all of these white folks, rich ones in particular, to say, oh yeah, we'll give you all $350,000. Then I'm thinking, and again, this Freedom Scholar thing, I got to admit, so it wasn't 350. And I know how this is. I know how this sounds, and I'm here for all the criticism of my class position on this. But I have to say that as wonderful as that hit of money would be, and relatively has been for me and us, it's not going to solve anything, and it's not enough. It doesn't solve anything about ownership. It doesn't solve anything about future redistribution of wealth created. It doesn't say anything about social relationships, political power. Where would all that money end up going? I mean, it doesn't. That the award I got doesn't even come close to wiping out my own debt. And then what could I invest in? What would I do? What can I do to make that money of benefit to more people? What can I buy? What can I own? What can I? So either everybody would have to get the check, and the prerequisite political organization that would be required to do anything would have to exist for that money to be better used and pooled to benefit the collective, or everybody's just going to slowly give it right back, and it won't even be generational money. It wouldn't even be. It doesn't change anything about who already owns all the stock. So if you right now watching this got $350,000 tomorrow, that doesn't mean anything in terms of what stock would be made available for you to buy. It doesn't change anything in terms of what land is available for you to buy. It doesn't change anything in terms of what areas of the economy that actually generate wealth could be bought into. Again, everything is consolidated. The ownership is so even this chase for that huge check, the enormous effort and work and energy to get that check, even if successful, and that's a huge if, it's not, it doesn't stop the military, it doesn't stop the wars, it doesn't stop the exploitation, it doesn't solve anything in perpetuity. Now, again, of course, obviously in the immediate moment, it makes a big difference to a lot of people. But it doesn't come with the solutions that people are claiming. So my point is, as I said here, if the goal, as Darity says, is reparations to close the wealth gap, and that means a massive $14 trillion investment in Black people, why not just advocate for socialism? Or why not? So $14 trillion is not even 1 year of the $20+ trillion annual GDP of this country. My argument is, if we're going for something, let's go for, at least initially, before we get to the stage of redefining how wealth is created and what this country's impact on the world is. If we're not advocating and moving to shutting the whole thing down, let's get something more permanent. Permanently redistribute the $20 trillion in this country to everybody. And I get it. And I will wrap up here. I get it. Black people deserve something specific. I get it. That's facts. There's no, that's not the argument. What is the overall impact on us trying to get what we deserve? What are we doing in defining what we deserve? What is the real politics behind advocacy around reparations? Again, I think it's really a mainstream liberal soft argument that is easily absorbable into discussion that goes nowhere. And it allows for some to present themselves as more radical than they are. Meanwhile, they're stifling solutions we should be thinking about, should be considering. Anyway, let me stop there. I'll jump in the chat for a few minutes, and if anybody wants to join me, I will right now put the link in the chat. If anybody wants to jump on and comment, question, critique, query, etc., and so forth, and we'll wrap it there. So take a quick break, come back, and get to the community, to the remix.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
Yeah, remember the Pentagon is a $35 trillion accounting black hole. That's a good point. I mean, that's sort of, I think we're in agreement here, Obi. That's sort of my point. What are we doing? So anyway, I mean, I do think, folks, listen, I do want you all, like, I actually think we need to. I get my Vernon philosophy point, but I actually think for those of us who consider ourselves activists and radicals or organizers or guerrilla academics, whatever we're doing, I think we do have to watch this. And in particular, episodes 3 and 4, where if you want to go back and look at that video, I detailed my reasoning, but it's very sophisticated. The arguments are very sophisticated in their presentation. They will require some of our intervention with those we want to build with, and I know, but see, I can't help it. But the contradiction here, an appeal to the white society and federal government for reparations is not fixing ourselves. That's what I'm saying. That's what it's like this thing of, I love how people keep making this argument, this radical nationalist argument that is the most begging. I mean, it's not doing for self. Not if we want it to air. I mean, that was the problem. Everything gets copyrighted, and you can't even screenshot Hulu without them, fading it to black. Yeah, I mean, that's always my point. HB 40 has been about getting a study. It's not even a reparations bill. It's only for them to conduct a study. But the studies have long been, that's the point. It's not. So they mentioned Conyers going in there every year and introducing that bill up until he died, and now it being taken up by what is it, Sheila Jackson Walker, Sheila Jackson Lee, Sheila, what's one, I forgot it, something like that. And then he got credit for that all those years, like he was doing something radical, and then they shoot it down and it goes nowhere. But all it was doing was saying, let's have a study. Everybody knows how this works. Everybody. That's what that Leonard Cohen song was, right. Everybody knows already. Everybody knows already. This is not about we need to convince people of anything. And this is why I've always kind of recoiled when I see products like this that are targeting white audiences. they're not confused about what's going on. I mean, I think I was misunderstood on the show yesterday with Diallo when I was trying to make this point. They're not confused about what's going on. They don't care. This idea that they're constantly paying attention to us and worried about us is by and large not true beyond those in power who are working feverishly to study managing public opinion. But in general, they're like, oh, I like black people when I like a song or I like a movie. I like but they're not like, what are black people? What are we gonna do? Should we give them? Should we work with? They don't care, and they know that they're oppressing black people, and they know they don't like black people. That's why I've even said those of us, nobody in the world knows white people better than Black America, and those of us within Black America with white parents know them better than anybody. And that's why I'm saying never mind the utmost conviction, collectively, white people, persons maybe, people do not care. So they're not. And if you're, yeah, anyway. So this whole thing of appealing to them to say, if we could just show them and convince them. By the way, my comrade sent me the clip. I watched the last clip of the last section of Kamau on Brianna Joy Gray show the other day. And this is the crux of what I thought was going on there. And where they didn't bump heads, but where they didn't see eye to eye entirely is because, with all due respect, her audience, she's targeting white audiences. She's trying to convince them of something. And Kamau is still in his nationalist bag, like, I'm not. Now, it was she who had to remind him about BPM, though. So shout out to Brianna for that, because old Kamau is damn useless when it comes to promoting the channel outside of. Jacques, what's up? Welcome.
Hey, what's going on, man? I appreciate all the work that you do, man.
Man, I appreciate that. It's all good. And we could debate how much work it is, but what's up? What's going on?
Nothing much. No, I just wanted to say, I wanted to give the point that reparations really isn't about, it shouldn't be about money, man. And I think it's a disservice that whenever we talk about reparations, it always goes to a check. I think it's our job to let people know that reparations is supposed to be about a deep repair of every wrong, right? And when we get to the wrong that has been done to black people, it really gets at the heart of the whole U.S. empire, right? You got to go back and repair. Y'all took us as slaves, right? We did the work for free. We never got paid. We built this country. We made everything work. We made all these inventions. You took the event, you know what I'm saying? It can't be like, oh, here's $50, here's $5,000, here's $5 million. Nothing is going to repair that. The only thing that's going to repair that is something that changes the system, that makes it work from here on out. And coincidentally, making it work for us makes it work for everybody. Scientific socialism. Just saying.
Sounds good to me.
So, yeah, no. Just, I love the work that you do. I'm just saying, everybody who hears this, please get that check thing out of your head. It's got to be like a full-on deal, a whole program. And that's all I got to say.
All right, right on. Man. I appreciate you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for jumping on. Thank you very much. And yeah, no, and not y'all, just Kamau. And that's why Brianna had to tighten him up. And she said, she even gave him the outro. And then he said, community movement builders. And then she said, but wait a minute, can't they also find you at Black Power Media and this, that, and she gave a nice little, you know what I'm saying? She was, you know what I'm saying? Kamau's old. That's why he's on the corner. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, Jacques, thanks for jumping up here, and I certainly agree. And I do know, by the way, that even the mainstream reparations supporters, many of them, in Cobra included, Darity included, I did read his book at one point, and my memory, again, reading is not studying, and my memory is garbage. But both of them have more than just a check in the I think in their overall argument. But that was what was all that was featured in this series, and what is generally, I think, thought of when people think commonly about reparations. And there was nothing done in the series to add to that. And of course, there was no reference to scientific socialism. So thank you for that, on top of jumping up here and joining the show. Let's see, anything else that I can address? Again, definitely, whether now or later, if you're seeing this later, many of us do pay good attention, so continue to
Put it in the comments.
And at some point I will schedule maybe a full, maybe like an evening live where we can spend some time and really get into some of the comments and criticism. Some of them are valuable and legit, and I can get over some of my feelings. Some of your comments and criticisms are hot garbage and don't even, you're not even being serious. So, but I think we can do that. Yeah, I think there was passing reference to this in the series, the ongoing segregation, but not in any meaningful way. So anyway. All right, good people. We can wrap it there for now. Please come back for Warrior class later on and make sure you have everything selected so you don't miss anything that continues to happen here on the platform. I will be back Monday morning with the Guerrilla Intellectual University crew, and then you got the Remix Morning Show all weekend. Of course, you got Sundays. Maybe I might pop back up on Sunday. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what's really going to happen? You never know what Jackie's going. You never know. People just be coming through. Shout out to Jackie. I just got to be on BAM with her yesterday. That was fun. And thank you very much. Appreciate your support and and shout out to the AAPRP, all that good stuff. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, go ahead. What's up? What's happening?
What's
Richie
good,
Dios.
Dr. J?
What's happening?
You were talking about reparations, so I just wanted to add something. I'm a military brat, and so Camp Lejeune, that's in NC. They had a whole water poisoning situation, and so long story short, government owes me some money. I went through the process. I'm still waiting on my check. So I think our people really, we kind of, when people are talking about reparations, they forget it's a process. And then not only that, it's not going to happen. They're not going to give reparations. But when you make a claim for the government, the United States government, they're going to make you jump through hoops to get something that they owe you. And at the end of the day, you're still waiting. Who knows when I'll see this money, ever, if ever, for being poisoned by the federal government from the water. Maybe they'll get back to me maybe when I'm your age. Not saying, that's about your age, but I'm just saying, it's like, okay, you put in your claim, we'll get back to you. When? So it's just like, for me, I need double reparations because I'm Boricua, I'm Puerto Rican, and I'm Black, U.S. Southern Black. So I'm both of those. So I get double reparations, but it ain't happening. Let's stop with the. Thank you for watching the show. Thank you for watching that Hulu show, because I've seen it. I'm like, nah, because you're saving me precious time. But that's it. That's what I have to say.
I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in and jumping up here. And I'm sorry to hear about the poisoning, and good luck with your payment.
Yeah.
Anyway,
drive safe, my man.
Huh?
Go listen to my music.
That's no question. You gonna spit something for us real quick?
Oh, spit something. Okay, let's see. Let me see. I'm gonna go ahead and spit. Let me spit it real quick. Let's see. What we got? Let me see what I got. God body Marcus Garvey catapult my army. No weapon form against me. You cannot harm me. No clique, no crew. They one and the same. Everybody running around, yo, it's simply a game. Now I'm moving back and forth these NY streets, yo, here and there, yo, what it really beats, nothing that's better than most. How I cheddar the toast, what you talking about, freestyles off the top of the dome. Hey, leave me alone when he talking about reparations. Maybe yet, yo, we never been escaping. Understand it's set jetting. They talking about passport bros, boy, you really don't know, because these pigs come rolling. Right, I'm on the corner of the street, and everybody talking, well, we all want to eat, no. Piece of hand to mouth existence, talking about what we gonna do, get down resistance. Shout out to Mutsulu, shout out to Siddiqui. Understand these words, really, yo, I just freak me off the top of my zone when I really do it. I'm sort of like Ghostface Killer, the whole clan understand this is a plan when I get it and I do it. Jumping on the microphone, y'all misconstrue it. Nah, never that. Really hit it that. Go to the band camp and get all that scratch off. All that Skrilla, all them rhymes. Every time they talking about Dr. J, man, you talking about Irvin. Now I'm talking about BALL. What you talking about? When we get it, we dwell. Oh, we go to top of the roof, top of the thing. Maybe we can do it. Yo, that's why I got a little freestyle.
Now listen, that's called my boy.
Did you hear me?
Know nothing about that.
Yes, I did. Of course I did. That was dope. I got shouted out in the bars on top of that. That's what's up. Good looking out.
So yeah, that's it. I was making ones and twos, running errands, and I just jumped on. That's it.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Dropping bars and everything. Take care of yourself. Stay safe out there in these streets, in them streets. That's what's up. He did come through with that's what you call motherfucking bar. Yeah. I feel a clip coming on. Anyway, that's what's up. Big shout out to Rich L. Deals. I keep messing that up because I keep reading it on Twitter as Richie Deals, but it's Rich L. Deals. Yeah, right on. Oh, he said something else that I lost it. I lost the thought. But anyway, appreciate you jumping up here. No, those I think were real. Those were streets. I think that was New York City streets. I'm in these tree-lined streets. Anyway, all right, good people. Hey, I really appreciate you all showing up. Again, come on back in a couple hours for the Warrior class. I'm gonna go get my stretching on and go walk these dogs and represent Woo real quick. Back next time here at I Mix What I Like, as Fred Hampton used to say to you, we say peace if you're willing to fight for it. So peace, everybody. Thanks again. Catch you next time here at I Mix What I Like.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. Wait a minute.